In the heart of ancient Egypt, on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, once stood a beacon of human knowledge and curiosity, the Library of Alexandria. It was more than just a building. It was a symbol. A dream of collecting all the world's wisdom in one place. A dream that, in time, would go up in smoke. For centuries, the destruction of the Library of Alexandria has been remembered as one of the greatest tragedies in human history. Not because of lives lost, but because of ideas erased. How much knowledge disappeared when its scrolls were consumed by fire? How different might our world be today if those words had survived? In this video, we will unravel the myths and facts surrounding the library's destruction, investigate who might have been responsible, and most importantly, explore what was actually lost when history's greatest archive vanished. The story of the Library of Alexandria begins in the early 3rd century BCE. After the death of Alexander the Great, his general Ptolemy Isotta took control of Egypt and founded the Ptolemaic dynasty. Under his rule, the city of Alexandria was transformed into a center of learning, science, and culture. Ptolemy and his successors envisioned a place that would house every known text in the world. The result was the Great Library of Alexandria, a massive institution located within the royal palace complex. It quickly became the largest and most famous library of the ancient world, attracting scholars, philosophers, mathematicians, and scientists from across the Mediterranean and beyond. It is believed that at its peak, the library may have held between 40,000 and 400,000 scrolls. These scrolls contain works of literature, science, mathematics, history, medicine, astronomy, philosophy, and more. The exact number is debated, but what's certain is this: the collection was vast, unprecedented, and irreplaceable. To expand its collection, the librarians of Alexandria went to extraordinary lengths. Ships arriving in Alexandria's harbor were searched, and any scrolls found were copied. The originals were kept, and the copies returned. Scholars were paid handsomely to bring texts from across the world. Translations were made from Persian, Indian, and Babylonian languages into Greek. The aim was total knowledge, without borders. The library was not just a storehouse of books, it was a hub of intellectual activity. Among the scholars who worked there were names still remembered today: Euclid, the father of geometry; Archimedes, the legendary inventor and mathematician; Eratosthenes, who calculated the Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy; and Hipparchus, who laid the foundations of modern astronomy. So how did such a remarkable place come to ruin? The truth is complicated, because the Library of Alexandria may not have been destroyed in a single catastrophic event. Instead, it may have suffered a slow death, burned, pillaged, and neglected over centuries. One of the earliest and most famous accounts of its destruction involves Julius Caesar. In 48 BCE, during a civil war in Egypt, Caesar became trapped in Alexandria. To escape an attack on his ships, he ordered the harbor to be set on fire. According to some sources, the flames spread to the city and reached the library or its nearby warehouse, destroying tens of thousands of scrolls. But not all historians agree. Some believe the fire only affected a portion of the library's holdings. Others argue that the main library may have survived and continued functioning for years afterward. A second theory points to the Roman Emperor Aurelian, who besieged Alexandria in the 270s CE during a revolt. The fighting damaged large parts of the city, possibly including the library. By this time, however, the library's influence had already waned. Another possible culprit was the Christian patriarch Theophilus in the late 4th century. As Christianity became the dominant religion of the Roman Empire, many pagan temples and institutions were closed. Some scholars believe the library, or what remained of it, was destroyed during this period of religious upheaval. Finally, in 642 CE, the Arab conquest of Egypt led by Amr ibn al-As brought new rulers to Alexandria. A later account, written centuries afterward, claims that Caliph Umar ordered the burning of the remaining scrolls, arguing that if the texts agreed with the Quran, they were unnecessary, and if they contradicted it, they were dangerous. However, this story is likely a legend. Early Islamic rulers were known to preserve and even expand classical knowledge, translating Greek works into Arabic. The real answer is that we may never know exactly who destroyed the Library of Alexandria, or when. The library's fall was probably not one moment in history, but a series of tragedies. Fires, wars, political changes, and religious shifts all took their toll over centuries. By the time it vanished completely, few may have even noticed. But what did we lose? That question haunts historians to this day. Because the libraries catalogued did not survive, we don't know for certain what scrolls were inside. But we can make educated guesses based on references in other surviving texts. The works of playwrights like Sophocles and Euripides, many of which are now lost, may have been preserved there. Early records of Babylonian astronomy and mathematics could have extended our knowledge by centuries. Medical texts from Egypt and India, philosophical writings from ancient Iran, and historical records from lost civilizations may all have vanished in that fire. One of the most significant losses was likely the works of Aristotle. While we have some of his texts today, ancient sources mention hundreds more. His complete works on politics, metaphysics, and natural sciences could have transformed Renaissance thinking even earlier. Likewise, the mathematical and scientific discoveries of ancient engineers, possibly including early steam-powered devices, automata, or astronomical tools, might have advanced technology centuries ahead of its time. And then there's the possibility of entirely unknown knowledge. Ideas that no other source recorded. Questions asked and answered, only to be turned to ash. When we think of what we lost, it's not just books. It's futures that never happened. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria isn't just a historical event, it's a symbol. A symbol of how fragile human knowledge can be. How easily it can disappear, not with a bang, but with silence. It's a reminder that ideas must be protected, preserved, and shared, or they risk being forgotten forever. And yet, perhaps, something of the library still lives on. Not in scrolls or stones, but in the legacy it left behind. In the very idea that knowledge is worth collecting, sharing, and defending. Modern libraries, universities, and archives around the world carry forward the spirit of Alexandria. Digital preservation efforts, open access platforms, and global collaborations echo that ancient dream, to gather the world's knowledge and make it accessible to all. Maybe that's the lesson. That the Library of Alexandria wasn't just a place, it was a promise. And every time we choose to learn, to share, and to seek understanding, we keep that promise alive. To truly appreciate the magnitude of what disappeared, consider the library's organization. Scrolls were stored in wooden containers, categorized by subject, author, and even color of ink. Librarians kept meticulous records of borrowed works, metadata that could have offered insight into ancient scholarly networks. Those seemingly mundane details are lost, robbing us of a window into how knowledge was managed and disseminated. Beyond the content of the scrolls, we lost the stories of the people who created them. The scribes who copied works by candlelight, the philosophers debating ethics in the palace courtyards, the scholars meticulously charting the stars from the library's rooftops. Their conversations, their methodologies, their cross-cultural exchanges, all vanished with the scrolls they wrote. Imagine if we had Aristotle's unknown treatises on biology. We might have classified thousands of species before the medieval bestiaries even existed. Or if Eratosthenes' detailed maps survived, perhaps global navigation techniques would have advanced centuries earlier. Even a handful of missing mathematical proofs could have altered the course of algebra and calculus. Consider the library's role as a sanctuary for scholars of all backgrounds. Jewish, Egyptian, Greek, Persian, and Indian thinkers worked side by side. This multicultural exchange seeded innovations that shaped Western and Eastern civilizations alike. The loss of the Library of Alexandria was a blow not only to Greek culture, but to a global golden age of knowledge sharing. The ripple effects of that loss echo through history. The Dark Ages in Europe were characterized by a dearth of classical texts. Monasteries became the only repositories of knowledge, painstakingly copying what fragments remained. Had the library's archives survived intact, the Renaissance might have dawned earlier, scientific revolutions could have surged with more momentum, and the Age of Enlightenment might have taken a different shape. In more recent times, the symbolic power of the library's destruction has inspired movements for preserving cultural heritage. UNESCO's efforts to safeguard World Heritage Sites, digital archives like Google Books and the Internet Archive, and initiatives to protect endangered languages all draw inspiration from Alexandria's fate. The lesson is clear: knowledge is vulnerable, and preservation demands vigilance. Today, we face new challenges. Digital media can disappear with a click. Hard drives fail, websites shut down, formats become obsolete. The modern equivalent of burning scrolls is a server crash or proprietary software that becomes unsupported. Recognizing our responsibility as stewards of information is more urgent than ever. Yet, amidst these challenges, there's hope. Technology also offers tools for preservation: cloud backups, distributed ledgers, open-source formats, and global collaborations. Crowdsourced transcription projects are digitizing letters, diaries, and manuscripts that would otherwise languish unseen. Virtual reality reconstructions let us step into ancient libraries and archaeological sites, preserving experiences as well as data. The spirit of Alexandria lives on in this blend of reverence for the past and innovation for the future. When we digitize a medieval manuscript, translate an obscure dialect, or host a public domain images repository, we're echoing the librarians of antiquity who risked their lives to collect every scroll they could find. So, as we reflect on the Library of Alexandria and its tragic end, let us also celebrate its legacy. Let us recognize that each book we read, each archive we digitize, and each idea we share contributes to a chain of knowledge stretching back millennia. In that sense, the library never truly died. It lives on in every curious mind, every open library door, and every server that safeguards human creativity. Thank you for watching Historic Decode. If this exploration moved you, share it with others. Subscribe to continue uncovering the hidden chapters of our past. And in the comments below, tell us how you're helping to preserve knowledge in your own way.